Hello again. Welcome to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook. I'm here each week with Marc Oslar as we talk about issues of retirement. We talk about some of the fear that goes along with that. And we talk about how choosing that person to help you, that financial advisor, and how that can be a difficult thing. You're kind of saying, here's my life savings. Don't lose it. That can be kind of a nerve-wracking kind of a meeting, but that's why we want to introduce you to Marc and show you how he helps people in retirement. Marc, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Randy. What a beautiful weekend we have here. I'm just looking forward to having some great dialogue here today and really talking about some really good financial information.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things about this show is we kind of live this show at the same time that we're talking about retirement, because my wife retired last week. It was her first day of retirement. And, one of my friends here at work talked to me about his sister and how when she retired, she was a college professor. And on the day after her retirement, her first day home, she's sitting in the middle of her office, surrounded by books and boxes, crying. And her husband said, well, what's going on? She goes, well, yesterday everybody wanted to know my opinion, and today nobody cares. I was like, oh, geez. And I didn't know how my wife, Julie, would handle this. So she said she was going to retire, and she was done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. So I was home at 3:05 just to see how this was going to go. I found her underneath her desk, ripping out cords going, don't need that, put this in the box, get this back to work, don't need that. And by the time the week was out, we have some remodeling, we have some painting doing, we have some new furniture coming, and she booked a couple of tickets to see Tim McGraw. So she's on her way.
She's gotten a lot done in a little bit of time.
In a very short period of time. Yeah.
Wow.
I said, you're going to slow down, girl. You're going to burn out. But it's true.
It's like you get to that point where you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what to do when you first retire.
Yeah. The whole idea of what am I going to do with my time? That's what everybody says. What are you going to do? And then you hear those people that say, I don't know how I worked for a living. I'm so busy. I don't know how did I ever work? Because I got so much going on. So that's what we're going to start with here today. And that is this. Some people start retirement almost like my wife is right now. She's at the starting line, like of a 26-mile race, and she hears the horn go off, and off she runs. But then there's another group of us that kind of tiptoe our way into retirement because we're very unsure about this new place in our life. And we don't even know how much we can spend. We don't know. It's just like, I got to get the feel for this to see if it's going to be okay. So, Marc, you talk a lot about, the pillars of a good retirement plan. One of them is an income plan. How does that help you be that person at the starting line instead of that person who's tiptoeing into retirement, very unsure about what you're getting into?
Well, you talk about income. I mean, that's one of the big ones, okay? Mm-hmm. If you want to retire, you've got to understand how much your expenses are, right? Because if we have enough income for our expenses and we have a little bit more for the things we want to do in life and enjoy life and just be out there, maybe vacation, travel, those types of things, spending time with the grandkids, blessing them with different things. These are all really important things to get out on the table ahead of time. Mm-hmm. If you've got a few years to do this, 3, 5 years, 7 years to do this ahead of time, we can prepare for income for retirement. So a lot of folks will say, okay, I don't have an income plan other than Social Security. Well, have you looked at annuities with income riders, mm-hmm. right? Oh, well, I've never heard of such a thing. Okay, well, let's have that conversation because maybe you need something like that. It's a possibility. There's a possibility you might be looking at, well, I have enough from, just different areas. I'm withdrawing money from here. I'm withdrawing money from there. Well, do you have a plan? Mm-hmm. Do you have a plan? Because if you're going to retire, if you have a plan in place where you feel really comfortable about the preservation tactics you've built in, it can make a huge difference about when you retire, what you're feeling like and what you're doing with your time, because you feel confident that you can spend money here and there. Like we said in the show, Randy, preservation, income, and growth. Mm-hmm. We want the income to come from preservation tools. It's very important. And don't worry, the one thing we like to do is make sure that you have good, sensible growth as well.
One of the things about this big change that you're going to go through in your life, and, a lot of people have looked at this and they say, retirement is in one of the top 10 of the changes that happen in your life. But you think about them. I mean, you go from high school to college. It's really exciting. You go from college to your first job. It's really exciting. You get married. It's exciting. You have kids. It's exciting. And then you go through all of that and you get into retirement, and it's not exciting. You're scared to death because you're going into this thing that you don't know. How much am I going to spend because I don't know what I'm going to be spending it on? Do I have enough money to go for 25 years? There's all this fear and anticipation. And I think that retirement should be a time of excitement as well. You're moving into this new aspect of your life, a different kind of aspect of your life. So let's make retirement exciting and getting into it exciting. And Mark, to have that plan to tell you, this is how much I can spend. I'm not going to get in trouble with taxes. I got a legacy plan. That gives some confidence, and I think that some people will be more excited if they go into retirement with all of this locked down.
Most definitely. So there's several different ways that I meet people. Okay, radio is one of them. Mm-hmm. If you want to meet me by listening to my show, reach out to us on moretoretire.com. more2retire.com, not the number 2, T-O, more2retire.com. I'll make it very simple. You can meet me on radio. You can come to maybe one of my workshops that I have. I have one, that I've done recently. And so if you came to one of my workshops, that's another way that you can meet me. But there's also other ways you can meet me. You can just reach out to me in general and look me up. I'm very easy to find. Our office is in Cary. It's on the corner of Kildare Farm and Maynard Road. It's 919 Kildare Farm Road. You're not going to get a better address than that in Cary, North Carolina. So why do I bring that up? I bring that up because you're asking me about income needs, things like that. Well, meet me, sit down with me, test me, challenge me, ask me why you think that I can help you in this area. And then you'll figure it out yourself, whether you want to work with me or someone else. The point is you should work with someone, especially if you have income needs. And we can help you resolve those things because it's going to give you the confidence, as Randy said, it's going to give you the confidence of how to spend in retirement.
You know how much you get paid right now? Do you know how much you're going to get paid in retirement? Yeah, most of us don't. We know we get Social Security, and then we've saved all this money in 401ks and things like that. What does that mean? What does it mean per month? How much can I get out of all of that? And can we stretch that a little bit? Let's talk through it. Moretoretire.com, as Mark said, that's the website. You can start right there. Learn more about Mark. Learn about how he goes about helping. We'll go through those steps that he talks about here on the show in just a few minutes. But there's a good start there for you, and then you can give Mark a call. 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. What does that mean? That means we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about your concerns, see what you've done for retirement, where you've saved. Is there any gaps here? Are we headed for a tax problem? Are you worried about legacy, things like long-term care? Let's get it all out on the table. 984-300-1984. So I was just recently down in Florida, and I went from the airport to the hotel, had an Uber driver. And the Uber driver was very obviously in his 60s, close to 70. And so I thought, here's a guy who's either still working or he's retired and he's working. So we, started a conversation. And he'd been retired for 4 years. And he said, do you ever see that movie, The Amityville Horror? I said, yeah. He said, you remember when the house said, get out? I said, yeah. He says, that was my wife's voice. Get out. So he's working as an Uber driver about 4 days a week, and he's enjoying it. He's having a good time. But I started thinking about that term, get out, because I've got friends in retirement, Mark, when we talk about the market, they go, oh, no. I retired and I got out. I am not in the market anymore. I don't want anything to do with that anymore. Can you do that, Mark? Can you have a 20, 25, 30-year retirement without using the stock market? Is that possible? Are these people onto something, or are they missing something?
It's a great question, and I'm not a proponent of either way. Mm-hmm. What I'll say is it just depends on your risk tolerance. So, well, first and foremost, I've tried to get that movie out of my head since childhood, okay?
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Oh, my goodness.
That was a bad one.
Apparently some truth to that movie, too. But, oh, boy, that movie did a number on me growing up. I should have never watched it.
Me too.
I will say, now, get out. Yeah, I mean, some people want to get out of the market, right? Mm-hmm. And I get that, okay? it's okay to be in and out of the market in retirement. Here's the real question. How much money do we need in preservation tactics to build the income you need in retirement so that you don't mind the risk on the other portion of money for growth purposes? Because that's how we do it when we're planning for retirement. Folks might ask me when they're younger, you're in the accumulation phase of your life. So you're trying to make as much money as possible. You don't mind some corrections in the market. When you're getting closer to retirement, what you're doing is you're preparing your money for income resources. That's what's important. So we preserve it, we build income resources for it, and then we figure out what's good, sensible growth on the rest of the money because we don't mind the risk. We have a timeline. We have time. With risk, time is key, right? Mm-hmm. If we have time, we can build that risk, but we can be calculated with that risk too. I've mentioned before in the past that we have, I'm one of 300 advisors in the country that we have a proprietary platform called Market Guard. And there's a lot of times we like to pick a pure equity model with some qualified funds. People say, what are qualified funds? Real simple. Qualified funds are it's government qualified money. It could be an IRA. It could be a Roth IRA. It could be a 401k, whatever it might be. Point is, we like to move around in the pure equity model. Let's say if it's an IRA, it's easy for us to do that because it's an actively managed portfolio. We are rebalancing that portfolio quarterly. So that's really important to us to explain this to folks, that what timeline do we have for this sensible growth? And have we prepared the income resources for preservation tactics for the rest of the money? If we've done that, then as an advisor, I could put my head on the pillow comfortably at night and not worry.
Yeah, I think that you kind of said this differently than in any way I've ever heard it, and that is that you've got IRA, you've got 401k, you've got Social Security, maybe you've got a pension, and that's where some people say, I'll just draw off that, and that's my income. But what you're saying is, let's get the income all locked down from those sources before we start talking about risk. And once you know that your paycheck is coming in reliably every single month, then we can talk about what your risk level is. Because I got to believe that once I know that my paycheck is there, everything that I want to pay for is there, then I can have a better conversation about how much I want to use that stock market. That makes total
100%.
sense. All right. You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, it's moretoretire.com. Just spell that right out, moretoretire.com. There you'll see Marc's steps of how he helps people go through retirement. We're going to go through that in just a second here. And if you want to have a meeting about your retirement, no cost, no obligation, just to talk about how this is all going to work. What are your concerns? Are you worried about taxes? Are you worried about markets? Are you worried about legacy? Are you worried about long-term care? Are you worried about all that stuff? Let's get some of that worry off the table. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. And Marc, why don't we talk a little bit? When they go to the website, they're going to see your steps to more. So take us through that a little bit here of when somebody gives you a call, what happens?
Sure. So I was on a Zoom call with a gentleman the other day, because that's another way that I meet folks as well, as I have a service that'll hook up a person that's looking for help with a person like myself. And we go through that process. We'll go on my website, moretoretire.com. We'll go to our process guide. It's your financial pathway to more. So what we do is we start with a treetop view. It's kind of like macroeconomics, right? We're looking at different buckets of money right from the treetop. And as we're looking at that stuff, we're also combining what are your retirement desires, dreams, things you want to do. Those are steps 1 and 2. Then what we're doing is we're personalizing a plan. So we're really just getting down to the nitty gritty and putting something together directly, specifically for you. Right? So we specialize that thing, you become a client, and then we always are looking at ongoing adjustments, changes, switches, things that we might want to do in the future. And then, of course, you're always going to get ongoing support. So that's how we do things here.
One of the things that we're going to talk about today is that ongoing support, because things happen in your life. You may go down to Florida on vacation and you find the perfect condo, and then you look at Marc, go, should I buy it? Should I rent it? What should I do with this? And those are those kind of questions. And we're going to talk a little bit today about legacy. What happens if a parent passes? Should you use their financial advisor, or should you bring the money over to your side? And there's a lot of different things that ongoing support is really, really valuable, using Marc as a resource. Give him a call. Let's see if it's a good match. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 or the website more2retire.com. All right, we talk about putting together a retirement plan, and sometimes you'll talk about dividend-paying stocks. And some people will say, well, they'll reduce that dividend sometimes. I don't know if I want to get in there. Well, I was looking up dividend-paying stocks, and they brought up Kimberly-Clark, and they said that they have paid a dividend every month for 92 years, since 1934. That's pretty reliable, I would say. So how do we find companies like that, Mark? What is a dividend-paying stock? How do you use them? How does that become a part of the retirement plan?
That's a great question. So you and I had talked about this previously and discussed how we use dividend-paying stocks in a retirement portfolio. And I think I mentioned to you that, and I've told everyone out there as well, that we like to use preservation tools for income or retirement. I don't mind also using some dividend-paying stocks because if you're picking ones that you feel like are a little bit more reliable, like you mentioned, like Kimberly-Clark, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But there are those dividend-paying stocks out there that they might give you a nice dividend and then cut it off or cut it, in half. And you have to watch out for those because those are the ones that are really just trying to get your attention, right?
Got it.
What we're really looking at here is one that's going to be of consistency. Mm-hmm. And we do have a market guard dividend paying model for stocks. And I think it's important to understand that we're looking for consistency. Companies that, they're consistently making the returns they're looking for, so they're going to pay you that dividend, right? In good times and in bad times. And that's what you want. You want something, you see the history of it. Is it going to pay me? You feel confident in it. Now, is it guaranteed? No, of course not. Of course not. But it's important to understand that we're looking for the consistent ones, not necessarily the ones that are trying to get your attention. And I've mentioned before in the past, some good alternatives to dividend-paying stocks or to CDs would be structured notes. Mm-hmm. And I've mentioned them as well. Someone was asking me about structured notes recently. I said, well, they're all so different. Mm-hmm. You could have a growth note. You could have one that's meant for paying a coupon. It just depends on what you're looking for and how it's going to fit your needs. But we can go through the ones we have custom in-house and, of course, all the public ones that are out there as well.
Are there different sectors that you should look at? Because when you talked about the ones with a really high dividend trying to get your attention, probably get their hooks in you and say, hey, we're a new company. We're going to do a dividend-paying stock, and it's 8%. And then you go in and you go, oh, I'm gonna jump in on that. And then not long later, they lower that. Is that more of a technology kind of an area? Because, Kimberly-Clark, that's kind of a staples kind of an area. Are there different sectors that we should look at in the market that would be those consistent dividend-paying stocks that have what they call aristocrats? They've been there for a long time, and they consistently pay.
Yeah, it's cyclical ones. Consumer cyclical. Mm-hmm. You see those in particular. That's important to understand that, if that's going to give you that level of consistency of understanding, this is going to be here and this is going to pay me because I've looked at the history and this is what makes sense. Yeah, technology, it could float. Mm-hmm. You don't know necessarily what you're getting out of that. And with tech, we try to stay healthy. In our pure equity model, we try to stay fairly healthy in tech. It can range anywhere from like 16 to 24%, just depending on where we're at as a society and what we see in terms of risk model. But in general, no, I wouldn't be looking to tech for dividends. That would not be my number one place to look for it. It would be consumer cyclical and places like that. So that's important to understand. And the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world too. Mm-hmm. Just understanding those aren't stocks that are trying to move the needle. They're stocks that are just trying to maintain and pay a dividend, and that's the purpose behind it. Warren Buffett, he loved dividend-paying stocks, right? And he probably still does. Okay, I'm not saying like Warren Buffett's passed away. He's not.
Nope.
He's not died yet.
Nope.
He's still alive.
He's still out there.
Retired, shockingly.
So, when I talk about sectors in those terms, do we look for something that is, Kimberly-Clark, they make diapers. Okay, you need diapers whether the economy's good or the economy's bad. Those are, I heard somebody talk about Walgreens over the years has done the same kind of thing. We need those kind of companies, grocery stores and things like that are going to be there during a good economy and a bad economy. Is that kind of what we're looking for?
Yes, 100%.
Gotcha.
Like we said, we're consumers, right? So we want to see something that's consistent. And when you see consumption of something, you realize that that's a publicly traded company, it's a stock, they're already pretty much at their threshold of growth purposes based on their valuation, that they're really just trying to maintain, the size, the stature, the consistency. They're going to probably pay you the dividend, and that's what you're looking for.
I think that we go into retirement thinking about the things that we know. We know about 401ks. We know about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And when you sit down with someone like Marc, he can introduce you to some of these other options out there. And there is more than getting paid from one place in retirement. It should be more than Social Security. It should be more than your 401k. Let's see if we can get you paid in 3, 4, 5 different places in retirement. Give Marc a call. Let's sit down and have a meeting about your retirement. Here's the website and the number, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no obligation look at your retirement. Talk about what you've done, what it's going to be for you per month in retirement. If there's a gap there and you thought you needed $6,000 a month and now you need $7,000 a month, where's that going to come from? Let's work that math out together. MoreToRetire.com is the website. All right, so, we talk about this is a financial show. We're talking about retirement, and sometimes we'll get into some financial jargon. Every now and then I'll shake my finger at Marc when he says beta and alpha, and I say we got to dumb it down, make sure Randy can understand it here. But there are lots of abbreviations. There's RMD and there's IRMAA and there's these things like sequence of returns. There's all this different stuff, and people start Googling that stuff and try to figure out what all that means. I get that, okay? So, Marc, give me the pillars. Give me the things. Maybe there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. I don't know. What are the pillars that we have to have when we walk out of an office with a retirement plan? I mean, we talk about our big 3. Talk to me about what they have to have as they go out of a retirement meeting.
I'll give you this one right off the bat. So let's say you want to, for ease of use, retire at 65, turn on Social Security, Medicare all at once. Mm-hmm. Be aware of just one particular factor, and that's IRMAA. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned that one in particular. Mm-hmm. It stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. What happens with IRMAA is you take the last 2 years of your earnings, and what can happen is it can surcharge or make Medicare more expensive in your first 2 years of retirement, depending on how it related to your income for your last 2 years. It's a 2-year look back. So if you do retire at 65, keep in mind that your Medicare could cost a little bit more money to start at age 65. Now, that's just important for you to understand that, okay? So that's one. RMD, required minimum distribution. The law used to be where, you have, let's say, an IRA, and you had to take a required minimum distribution, a minimum amount that the IRS requires you to take out at a certain age. It used to be 70 and a half. Then it became 72. Now it's 73 or 75. If you're born 1959 or before, it's age 73. If you're born 1960 or after, it's age 75. And the minimum amount tends to start around it's a factoring table. It's in the neighborhood of around 4%. And the factoring table lowers, which means the percentage amount you take out goes up a little bit each year, because they want to get a piece of those taxes, right? They've let you defer those taxes all those years, so they want a piece of that pie, right? And that's why that's happening. Now, alpha, beta, we're getting into standard deviation, okay? Randy loves to call standard deviation the wobble effect.
The wobble effect.
Yes. And he's so right. It has to do with risk and return combination and how much wobble or growth or loss do you get with that particular stock.
So if somebody comes in, and I got to believe you hear this all the time, Marc, I want the lowest risk possible and the highest return possible. Is that possible?
Well, I mean, seriously, let's get real here, okay?
So I guess what I mean by that is this. You can have investments that have low risk and moderate return. If you want high return, you've got to probably go someplace, and then you got to say, we're going to just allot a small amount over here in this high risk category. That's our flyer over here. We don't want that to hurt us if it goes the other direction.
Yeah, that's why we balance it. So we're talking about not balancing it where we have everything in the market, because I'm sorry, that's not a balanced portfolio in retirement. Folks will come to me and say, I'm working for Fisher Investments. Oh, they've balanced me well. Well, I understand, but they don't do any insurance-related products, and they're not really building you any other models besides being directly in the market. There's so much stuff out there that folks, you just need to know about this.
Yep. That's one of the reasons I think it's so important to sit down and have a meeting like this, is to kind of open up the world of what's out there. You know, it's more than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Let's find out what's out there for you and what's right for you, what you're comfortable with when it comes to using the stock market, using all the different aspects of financial planning and planning your retirement. Give Marc a call and let's sit down and talk through the math of your retirement. Let's just actually get down to it here and say, this is what's going out. This is what's coming in. Is it enough? Is it what I want to do in retirement? Is there enough income there for me to have the fun I want to handle the day-to-day? Let's figure it out together. It's 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or online, moretoretire.com. There's a place for you to put a little information in there. Marc's team will reach out to you and get a date on the calendar. Again, a no-cost, no-obligation meeting at your retirement, 984-300-1984. Going to take a quick break here. Somebody wrote into one of those Ask the Advisor columns and said, I made this financial move. Am I a genius? Let's find out. That's next on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Oslar can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, it is moretoretire.com. I encourage you to go there today. Tool around a little bit, learn more about Marc. We'll have the 5 steps to more that you can take a look at. We'll go through that again a little bit later on in the show. And just sit down and talk about your retirement. Do some of the math on it. A lot of you are just looking at this going, I don't know what I'm in for. I know I'm going to get Social Security, and then what? How's this all going to work? Let's figure that out. 984-300-1984. Somebody wrote into the money.com advisor column and says, even though I don't need it, I plan to claim my Social Security at my full retirement age and then invest it. Am I a genius? All right. So it's a woman. She's waiting until her full retirement age, so I give her credit for that. So that's a good thing. Is that something that you would encourage people to do, or you see people doing, Marc, is using their Social Security money to invest?
So if we're referencing age full, it's not the maximum age either. Okay, so age full could be like 66 years, 66 and 2/3 years, or could be 67, right? Those are the common ones. And when you see that, what it really means when you turn it on social at that point is that you could actually have earned income at another job and it not be a way where you get penalized by your Social Security, right? So that's a reason why you would take it at age full at that point, or because you feel like you're maxed it out, you've done your statistics, and you feel like that's the age where it makes the most sense for you, right? If you wait to 70, it's going to be the most you make, and if you live a very long life, you'll get more out of it, but you don't know if you're going to live a long life. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I've seen so many things happen over the years that you just don't see coming or expect. I had a client pass away this year. I just didn't see it coming. Okay, and they just, these ones, they can grip you, they can shock you, and then you just have to shift and pivot and move. What I'll say is, if you're going to turn it on and you're going to work and you want to invest it, I get it. It makes sense. Now, if you're going to retire and wait to age full, you're going to have to explain to me why you want to do that. And I want to understand it. 62 has been the most common one that people have been using. However, it's shifting a little bit. And I've noticed it's been shifting a little bit. People are worried. People are worried that the Social Security system is broken. They're worried about the trust fund going exhausted between 2032 and 2033. And they have real concerns about this. And so they're trying to maximize their payment a little bit more, because what we discussed on the show before in the past is the possibility of, if that trust fund is not there and no things have changed in the future, that what we would be facing is a potential of 25 to 30% loss of Social Security. And nobody wants that.
Right. So Social Security for some people is going to be their retirement. For other people, it's going to make their retirement. It's going to be, 40, 50% of their income. And for other people, they may not need it at all. They've done really, really well. And Social Security is just a little, cherry on top. And so they can use it for other things. Mark, using it for something else, it seems to me that, like, I heard somebody say one time that I'm going to use my Social Security money to pay the taxes for my Roth conversion. I'm going to use my Social Security money to pay for a long-term care policy. I'm going to use my Social Security money for that money, that the little extra thing that I wanted to do. I don't need that money, so I'm going to use it for that. Somebody said, I'm going to use Uncle Sam's money to pay off Uncle Sam's debt. So I mean, some of that does make sense if you're in your 60s, doesn't it?
It does, and it's actually a very adult way to look at things, because, like we said before, in income and retirement, we don't want to fully rely on Social Security. We don't want that to be the crux of what you're doing in retirement. What we want to be is prepared for income purposes of when you retire, so we can handle the expenses in life, right? That's where we need to get to. Other than that, just understanding, don't fully rely on Social Security. You can use it for whatever planning tool you want, and I can even help you with some ideas as well. But again, it's not something we want to do and rely on that fully for retirement. We want to have other sources and other means.
You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience online. It is more2retire.com. Just spell that right out. Get to Marc's webpage, tool around a little bit, learn more about his process there. If that seems to fit what you kind of need in your retirement planning, and why wouldn't it be? We talk about preservation. We talk about income. We talk about growth all the time, the big pillars of retirement. Let's get that locked down for you. Do the math on your retirement. More2retire.com or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. Let's get your questions out on the table. And if you're a little worried about this whole thing, let's try to clear things up for you. 984-300-1984. Okay, so here's the scenario. I want you to kind of picture yourself here. You're in the office with Marc. You're on one side of the table. He's on the other side of the table. And Marc looks at you and says, what do you want your money to do in retirement? And so you think about that a little bit and you say, okay, well, I want my money to grow. Okay. I want to have access to my money. I want to be able to get to it anytime I want to. Okay, check that one. I want protection on my money. I want preservation for my money so that it won't go down. And I want to be able to give money to my kids if I pass away. And I hate to tell you this, folks, but you have just described an annuity. Surprise! And I know that some of you are going to go, it's like a vampire movie. You're holding up a cross when somebody says annuity. Marc, when people start to look at what an annuity can do, I think that the whole conversation changes, because if this is what you want from an investment, from anything that you're going to put your money into, check, 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 check. Why wouldn't you look at it with more of a critical eye? Because, I mean, last week we said $464 billion of annuities were sold last year alone. They break records almost every single year. So there's a lot of people that are saying, this might work for me. So what do you do when you go through an exercise like that and they go, oh, no annuity for me? What do you say?
Well, I'll be honest. I love to make people uncomfortable. You come visit me. I'll make you real uncomfortable in your seat. No, seriously. It's fun to talk about it because some folks just are so against it because they had a bad experience.
Okay.
If you had a bad experience with an annuity, show it to me or talk to me about it. I would love for, if you bought an annuity from like 2019 to 2022, the issue is interest rates were at a very strange level, right? And then we went through massive inflation and they adjusted and switched and changed. What I'm telling you is right now, rates are so different now than they were back then. There was a lot of annuities that were sold back then that were just not very good. What I can share a software with you, a tool, and when you come in and I'll show you, I'll put it on the big screen, you can look at things, and I can show you different products and features and how they work. And I can tell you, there's some of them out there that are absolutely destroying others with the particular indexes. And I'm talking about real returns you would sometimes only expect in the market, but they do exist here. This can actually happen. I'm not telling you you're gonna beat the market, but annuities are a preservation tool. They will leave the money to your family through no probate as beneficiaries. You can do inherited IRAs with a lot of these types of annuities. There's so many different features, but some of the indexes have not performed and some of them have. Why don't we take a look at what's making money, what's not? I can move money out of other annuities, with bonuses and things like that and features, but you need to know what's best for you and your needs in your given situation. The big takeaway with annuities, and the big detractor, I would say that folks have brought up to me in the past have been surrender charges. And I said, well, look, let me ask you a question. You got this $500,000 account in the market. Are you going to go spend $500,000 tomorrow? Well, what's the answer? Probably not. The question is, what are you trying to do with this money? And is 7 or 10% penalty free enough for you each and every year to have access to your money during the surrender charge period? And if it is, and we have enough liquidity in other places, then annuity should not be an issue for you. Okay. And that's just a point I like to share. But if you have annuities out there you're not happy with, set an appointment with me. I'll share my software with you, and we'll just have a candid conversation. There's no pressure here. I love to talk about annuities because I understand them very, very well.
You remember in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the guy who went Bueller, and he's really a pretty astute financial guy. And I remember in the 70s and 80s, he would do videos on variable annuities. He was a big one on variable annuities. And when you start to look at some of the complaints about annuities, many times they are pointed at the variable annuity. And the variable annuity is not necessarily like a fixed indexed annuity. This is a completely different animal, isn't it?
It is. And it's his name, Ben Stein.
Ben Stein. That's the one. I couldn't think of his name. Yep.
He's funny, smart, he and it's true. The variable annuities, they can be riddled with fees.
Mm-hmm.
You could be dealing with a whole bunch of fees. What we do differently is we don't do variable annuities here. So what we like to do is we work with the brokerage products that we think make sense for our clients, stocks, sometimes mutual funds, a lot of ETFs, structured notes for building in, breaking up correlation. We didn't bring up correlation earlier, but it just means things moving in the same direction. And we want to kind of break that up because if you have a correction in the market, you don't want everything moving down when everything's moving down.
Makes sense.
So all that stuff matters, right? But variable annuities can be riddled with fees. We like to do fixed index annuities. We like to do multi-year guarantee annuities. They call them MYGAs as well, simply because they actually have preservation tactics. And variable annuities, the only preservation tactic you really have, for the most part, not always, is the death benefit. Other than that, we like to use things that are actual insurance products. Variable annuities actually are related to the market.
Yeah, they have a market component to them, that is for sure. It's more of an investment than it is an insurance contract, that is for sure. Well, if it's time to sit down and talk about your retirement and getting income in retirement and all the options that are out there to get you your paycheck in retirement, let's figure that out. I mean, one of the major questions you should have is, Mark, how am I going to get paid in retirement? How much am I going to get paid in retirement? Let's get you the answer to that question and all of the options on how to get you there. You need $8,000 a month? Let's figure it out of how to get you $8,000 a month. And, if there's a gap in there, let's figure that out too. Here's the number on the website, 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. Really, it's a sit-down to start to do the math on your retirement. 984-300-1984, or use the website, which is more2retire.com. Just spell it right out. There's a place for you to put some information in there, and Marc will reach out to you. So as I mentioned, you hear these formulas for retirement. They say if you have 80% of your working year's income, you should be fine in retirement. Well, that's been around for an awfully long time. The people at T. Rowe Price just did a new survey, and they found a lot of their people are living on 66% of their working year's income. Now, when you hear that, Marc, what's your reaction? This whole idea of a percentage of your working year's income, is that a good gauge, or is that pushing us in a direction that we don't want to go?
You know, so many different people have theories about this, and I really am not a proponent of doing it this way.
Okay.
What I really am a proponent of is understanding what we want to spend in retirement. Between everything, because you could be telling me you want to buy a home in France. I don't know. For whatever it might be, you like to travel. You're a snowbird. You want to go back and forth to Florida. I got clients in Florida. That's great. Let's build this into the plan, but let's identify all of your expenses. Most folks don't know all of their expenses. Do we know what we're spending? Have we done a budget? Do we understand what we're going to spend as well? And do we have enough liquidity to do the other things that we want to do in life as well? Because, again, you talk about spending money on gifts, going out to eat, spending time with family, buying gifts for grandkids, Christmas, birthdays, maintaining a vehicle. All of this matters in understanding what our expenses are, not just, what is my light bill and everything else, right? So let's get all this out on the table to understand what we think we're going to need for expenses in retirement. And then the trips, the trips we're taking, how much we'll probably spend on these trips. Things have changed. Airlines went way up. Why'd they go way up? Because of gas. I mean, it's very simple stuff. Inflation happens, things change, things are more expensive. Eating out, Randy, I mean, as we know, eating out is a lot more expensive than it used to be. And I don't think we inflated our income as quickly as inflation, created all the prices to go way up on us in that area too. So again, we need to be prepared for retirement about our expenses. That's where I go with what we need for income.
Well, one of the things that I think is funny about this whole percentage thing is, why do you want to take a cut in pay when you go into retirement? I mean, would you walk into your boss's office and say, "Boss, I've made a decision. I want a 30% cut in pay." And he goes, "Are you kidding me?" "No, that's what I'm going to do. I want a 30% cut in pay." And that's literally what this is telling you in retirement. You're going to take a 30% cut in pay. Is that what you want? I mean, if you're doing it on $8,000 a month now, do you want to do it on $6,000 or $5,000? I mean, I want my lifestyle to be the same or better in retirement than in my working years. And I know I'm going to have a lot more time. This past weekend, I went out and just ran errands with my wife, and I need a new thing for the barbecue. Oh, this and that and the other. And pretty soon you got $150, $200 worth of stuff in your car. And can you do that in retirement? Is there the slush fund that you can do that? Let's figure that out together. What is it that you can spend in retirement? How can we build you that income? We talk about the three big pillars: preservation, income, and growth. Your 401k is a place where you put money and save it there. It doesn't do those three things. Let's figure it out. Here's the number. Here's the website, 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or use the website more2retire.com. It's time to have a conversation about your retirement. Put a pencil to paper, actually figure out where we are. more2retire.com. Okay, finally today, the people at Fidelity did a study about people and if they have a financial advisor, if they have a written plan. And they found that of the people that they talked to, 23% of baby boomers have a written financial plan. That means a lot don't. And then they talked to the people who don't. 62% of them said, I think I'll be fine. What is that based on? Anyway, of the people that do have a plan, they asked them, why do you have a plan? What was the impetus of you actually putting together an appointment with a financial advisor to sit down and talk about it? Was it a big life event? Was a death of a spouse? Was it a divorce? Was it a loss of job? And they said, no, it wasn't that. And they said, was it a big market event? The market went down, so you lost a bunch of money. No, it wasn't that. Basically, the number one answer was, it's just time. It's just time for me to sit down and talk seriously about what my retirement is going to look like. And Mark, when we talk about it that way, there's a lot of people listening to us right now that probably fit in that category. It's just time to do this. Otherwise, you're going to be over your skis trying to figure this thing out.
Most definitely. And that's the thing. For the 77% of folks that are not talking to a financial advisor, I'd kind of lean you to want to talk to them, right? Here's the thing. Whether it's me or someone else, you're going to get some advice that's going to probably help you to retire a little bit more comfortably without having to think about so many things. There are folks out there that, let's say you love doing your own thing. Great. Continue to do your own thing. Just know that at some point in the future, the mind slips a little bit, okay? And maybe you won't be able to operate at that capacity that you're currently operating at. Maybe you get sick. Maybe you have a spouse that doesn't care about that stuff or doesn't know what to do with that stuff. These are important conversations to have, because if you think about this, you don't want to leave something like this and it be a big problem either. So again, I like to have these conversations and put them out there, because if you put a plan in place, you'll feel a lot more confident about what you're doing. And you might feel good about the road, but how about looking at an advisor and them looking right back at you in the face and saying, this isn't going to be a problem. This, if you do this, this, and this, everything's going to work out just fine to what you want to do in retirement. And that's what we do best here.
Thing I want to avoid is, everything goes along pretty good for 3, 4, 5 years, and then all of a sudden you hit a snag 5 years in, and it's a really big deal. Like you forgot about your RMDs, or all of a sudden you get a tax bill that you did not expect, or there's something that happens in your life that costs a whole bunch of money, and then you're worried that now I'm going to run out of money. Looking down the line, and things aren't always going to go according to plan. Stuff's going to happen. And to have that financial advisor in your life where you've got that plan and you say, okay, we just need to adjust. We adjust the plan. That's part of the whole process of that ongoing support that Mark talks about. It's not just building a plan and shaking your hand and saying, have a happy retirement. That's not it. It's sitting down and building a relationship, building a plan, and then walking that retirement with you. That's the whole idea of having a financial advisor. Give Mark a call. Let's start down the road. Let's sit down and talk about your retirement and see where it goes. MoreToRetire.com is the website. You can start right there. There's a place for you to put some information in there and put in your contact information. Mark will call you and say, okay, what's up? What do you got concerned about? And you can also skip all that and give him a call. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That is all the time we have on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience for today. We hope you have a great weekend. Check us out online. Got a podcast. You can hear this show there as well. iTunes and Spotify. Look up the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience, and we'll be right there for you. We'll be right here for you next week as well, and we hope you will be too. Have a great weekend.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.